Good morning. Welcome to What's Up Boone County. I appreciate you joining us this first weekend in June. Hope you had a great couple of weeks with the Memorial Day weekend and the last weekend in May. It's a great time of the year. The weather's usually cooperative and there's a lot going on. But I do appreciate you being in. I appreciate the folks from the Shalom House being here last week to talk about their organization and the upcoming Shalom Garden Tour on the 14th, which is next Saturday. So if you can support that organization and the garden tour, I think you'll find that enjoyable. But this week, our guest is longtime, or at least native resident, Beth Bartlett, who you may remember her name. We're going to talk about Beth. She is a licensed chiropractor, but has focused her medical practice in the field of holistic health. And we're going to talk about Beth because she's moved back to Lebanon. Well, she's actually living in Carversville. We'll talk about that a little bit. But she's opened an office here, and I find what she provides interesting. So, Beth, thanks for being our guest on What's Up Boone County.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, you're welcome. So let's talk a little bit about your background. Your parents were or are who?
Yes. So my parents, Ron and Harleen Bartlett.
All right, so people have been around here a long time remember Ron and Harleen. Ron's still alive.
He is.
Your mom, unfortunately, passed away a long time ago.
She did. It'll be 28 years in July she's been gone. So,
okay, well, yeah. I remember that. Your mom was active in about every women's organization in the community, as I remember.
Yes, with your wife, Char.
Yeah, right? That's right.
Yep.
So Harleen was active, and Ron was in the insurance industry a bit, and then he was in the funeral home.
Yeah.
He's been retired for a while.
He has been retired. Yeah, worked, owner Russell and Hitch Funeral Home for, gosh, I can't remember how many years, but we moved out of the funeral home when I was 12. And so
he was an owner of Russell and Hitch there on North Meridian Street, and you
Correct.
did you guys live in that building?
We lived there, yes.
I didn't know that.
We lived next door. I mean, the casket room, we walked out the door and the casket room was right there, and then we walked into the office. So I had a bit of a different upbringing, so yeah, well, it was normal to me.
Well, Dennis Myers was a friend of mine, and he was PL's son, and his Sig Myers was his brother, and
yep.
Dennis died early, but I would play with Dennis a lot over at his family's funeral home. We'd kind of hide among the caskets and all that sort of thing.
Yes,
so
yes.
I understand what you dealt with. So you're a Lebanon High School graduate.
Graduated class of 1992.
92.
Yes.
So who all was in your class?
Oh,
remember?
Gosh, I do remember. Andy Brannon, Katie Lockmuller, John Hughes, Kendra Baker.
Okay. Well, people will remember
Jackie
that group.
Minzer, yep. Kelly Thompson.
All right.
Yep. So
then you went to college where?
Yep, went to DePauw, and class of 1996 at DePauw.
What did you study there?
So my Bachelor of Arts is in psychology. So
what did you plan to do? Did you have any plans when you went there and when you chose that major?
So they didn't really have a pre-med major, but they suggested a science, and so I thought about biology, physics, chemistry, and then I was like, oh, maybe something associated with, how to interact with people would be more beneficial to me, and so I chose psychology. So, yeah.
And I assume you liked DePauw, didn't you?
Loved it. Loved every minute of it.
One of the things I've learned over the years is people have a hard time deciding where they go to school. Mm. But once they make their decision and they go there, and they almost always feel good about the choice they made. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They look back on their college experience favorably no matter where they ended up going.
Right.
And so after college, what did you do?
So I moved to Chicago and started on my coursework in chiropractic. Went to chiropractic school and graduated from there from National College of Chiropractic in Lombard, Illinois in 2001.
Sorry. So it was roughly, 4 or 5 year experience?
Yeah,
to get your medical degree in that field?
It was a trimester program, so I finished in about 3 1/4 years.
Okay.
So
tell our listeners a bit about what chiropractic is. I know you're not doing that now, but you did it for many years. What is it?
So basically, structural chiropractic, a lot of people think of it as, just adjusting all parts of the body, not just the back. You can adjust your wrists and your elbow and your shoulder and all those things. But it is, manipulation and just kind of restoring normal motion to the joint. You're not moving bones or tissues or anything like that, but you're increasing circulation, bringing fresh blood flow to the area, any kind of area of injury, that type of thing, and just restoring the nervous system function, basically.
So it's a recognized medical science, and it provides value to some people, and people who fit the need for that typically feel good about their chiropractor. How long did you engage in the practice of private chiropractic?
So I own my own practice in Lisle, Illinois for about 12 years.
Where's Lisle?
So it's a western suburb, about 30 minutes west of the city.
All right.
And if you're familiar with Naperville, it's just right by Naperville, right just east of Naperville. So was there doing primarily chiropractic work, and then went on to get some additional training and such in bioenergetic medicine.
Bioenergetic, what's that?
Yep. So just looking at the body from an energetic point of view versus just a physical point of view. So if you think of everything in the universe has a frequency to it, kind of like like we're listening to the radio, right? Like a radio station.
Yeah.
If you're not tuned just to the right station, you get a little bit of fuzz. And so just delving into that science a bit, and then some additional education in acupuncture, traditional Chinese medicine, and then finally functional medicine or holistic medicine. Restorative medicine is kind of what I refer to it as.
I had some acupuncture for a period of time. I had a back problem, and they tried the cupping, as I remember the term.
Yep.
And I did it for a while. I don't remember really much improvement. Mm-hmm. I remember going through those sessions, but it didn't do much, and I moved on. And I ended up having some steroid injections, which provided, temporary relief. It's not solved the problem. I don't think it was ever going to, but it did give me some improvement. But I think it's a disc or a nerve or something like that.
Mm-hmm,
but, cupping could make a difference in some cases. So you gradually moved away from the chiropractic field and got into what?
Yes. So got into, kind of what I refer to as functional medicine / restorative medicine. And that is, looking at the body as a whole. We're not focused in on one particular diagnosis or issue. We're looking at, what are you eating? What are you consuming? What are you putting on your skin, in your body? How are you sleeping? How are your bowel habits? So looking at all those different areas, inflammation, digestion, hormones, all those types of things that can affect a particular, what I'll call diagnosis, and may eliminate the need for that particular diagnosis altogether. So.
And did you open up a new office or change the name, or how did you make this transition?
So we moved back to, my husband and I, Dave, we moved back to Lebanon about 3 years ago. Well, moved the office back to Lebanon. We live in Crawfordsville because we couldn't find a house in Lebanon in March of 2022 when we moved back. But I kind of transitioned out of my practice in Chicago. I was driving back weekly, actually, like a Friday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I would see patients, then I would come back home and try to get the business here built up, and then that
had to be difficult.
That was it was a tough transition for sure. But it worked pretty effectively. I didn't really have a plan or a business plan of how I thought things would go here, which isn't a good business model, I know, but the name I practice here is Dr. Beth Bartlett Holistic Health. And
where is your office located?
We are out on Indianapolis Avenue, just off Indianapolis Avenue, 953 Monument Drive. I rent some space in the Cabin Counseling and Resource Center.
Okay.
So out across from the jail out there. So
that's where your office is, and that's where you do most of your work, but you live in Crawfordsville with your husband.
Crawfordsville, yes.
And what's your husband do for a living?
So he's an engineer. So he was in the tool and die industry. He used to be a die maker, and he got more into the administrative front office type piece, and so he does most of his work in quoting now and on the computer, and
so he's working remotely.
He works remotely, yes.
And so, but he's still employed and doing okay.
Yes,
and
for sure.
And so, is your practice increasing? Is it getting better? Are you busier today than you were 2 years ago? I assume
100%. Yes.
And how do you find your patients?
So mostly word of mouth, which is incredible. And I, in a what I will refer to as a small town, right? Growing up in Lebanon, that was a good thing. That was a benefit, I thought, to starting a practice here, and just building a business. And I do a little bit of social media, but that's not where I spend a majority of my time. So. But just, trying to get the word out about the services we offer and the, conditions we treat and that type of thing. So,
well, I imagine there's a lot of people that could use some just good overall advice about their lot in life. You're not going to fix their heart problem, right, or their bad back, although you might do some things that actually improve their chances of having back pain resolve.
For sure.
But as you say, things like eating habits and sleeping habits and physical exercise and all that can make an overall difference in condition somebody deals with.
Absolutely.
And that's what you work with, I guess.
Yes.
Like chiropractors tend to see people, maybe several times over a period of time to try to resolve a pain, and then it may flare back up again months later and they come back. Is that kind of what you do, or do you see them once, or do you see them multiple times, or how often do you see people?
So the idea is to kind of graduate people through treatment or care, having them make some changes over time. And some people come in and think, oh my gosh, I got to go home and overhaul my kitchen, or I've got to
throw away all the food they've got and buy new food,
that type of thing. And that is absolutely not the case. And just kind of meeting people where they are, and not saying, oh well, I expect you to be done with Diet Coke in a week, or something
I'd like
that.
you to figure out how I can get off of Diet Coke. I like Diet Coke.
Yes.
And it's not that I don't drink other things,
right,
but I've never gotten into the sport drinks much.
Right.
Water's okay, but
yeah.
Diet Coke's kind of the thing I enjoy. I drink lemonade and Diet Coke. So I don't know when people tell me I drink too much Diet Coke.
Yeah.
I probably do. I got a doctor who says, you're just killing yourself with that Diet Coke. And I said, well, it's not that bad. Surely. He said, well, it's pretty bad. I don't know if they would agree with Diet Coke. People would agree with me on
that. Yeah, for sure. But so, and then we have a couple of what I'll call holistic wellness therapies or treatments that we've implemented recently, PEMF and the Firefly therapy.
So what are those?
So PEMF is pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, and I know it's a mouthful, but it's a way to recharge every cell in your body. So every cell in your body has an electrical charge, and the stronger this charge, the better your cells in your body are going to function. So over time, because of stress or sleep issues or our environment, the food we eat, inflammatory diet, etc., our cells can sort of become depleted and lose their function. And so this is a way to, cellular exercise is really what it's called. So it's opening and closing your cells so they're better able to uptake nutrients and excrete waste and toxins.
And so how do they do this? Is this done through medicine or through some sort of charge or electric?
It's a therapy. So we have a chair that someone can sit in if they're not comfortable laying flat. But we have a bed and come in for the treatments are typically an hour long, and it's pulsed. So you're hearing the pulses per second. So we generally start people on 3 pulses per second. So you're hearing a tick, 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 3 pulses per second. And what's happening when you hear those pulses is electrical charges are being emitted, and your body is harvesting that energy and using it to fill its proverbial bucket, so to speak. And many things that this helps with in terms of energy and sleep and pain and better athletic performance, recovery from injury, those types of things. So I kind of explain it to people that everybody comes to us with a bucket full of energy, and they're losing energy. They may have a pinhole in their bucket, or they may have a gaping hole in their bucket. And what we're trying to do is repair that hole and replenish that bucket. It's kind of like plugging yourself into an electrical outlet in the wall. You're recharging your batteries.
And trying to build up the body so you don't continue to lose this energy.
Exactly. There's 3 ways to get energy, internally, by food, water, and exercise. But this is an external source of energy that we can use.
Are your patients typically young or old, or all the above?
Runs the gamut. So yeah, I think he was 7 or 8, and had issues with the bedwetting, honestly. And so we did a couple things. He did some PEMF therapy and saw some real.
Well, good. Well, we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Beth Bartlett of Holistic Health here in Lebanon after we take a moment to hear from our sponsors. Well, we're back with What's Up Boone County this first weekend in June 2025, talking with Dr. Beth Bartlett of Holistic Health here in town. Before we continue our conversation, Beth, about your medical training and the programs you offer, I'd forgotten to talk to you about your experience with the harp, because I remember when you were younger, you started and became very good at the harp. Are you still playing the harp?
I still am.
How'd you get involved in the harp? How'd you even come across the harp?
So guess who? My mom, right?
Did she do that too?
Well, so she always wanted me to, because she thought I had long arms and long legs. I'm like, is that a good reason? But anyway, we were at a Indianapolis Symphony performance one time, and I think I was 12 years old. That's when I started. And she said, well, the harpist was up on the stage, rehearsing a bit, and she said, well, why don't you go talk to her? And I was like, I don't want to. I was 12 years old. I mean, what 12-year-old wants to practice an instrument? So I went up and talked to her, and her name was Jessica Suki Pilalis. So she's listening. Shout out to Jessica. So started taking from her, and I probably took from her for 3 or 4 years. And then when I was at DePaul, I had private lessons for 4 years. And then I haven't had lessons since.
So you took lessons from somebody there in Greencastle, or did you have to go to Indianapolis?
Nope. Well, initially Indianapolis, before I got to DePaul, and then they had a harpist there at DePaul. So
what's a beautiful instrument, and if you get good at it, I suppose it could be quite a lot of fun, couldn't it?
It's been a joy to.
You still perform occasionally?
Occasionally, yes, for different events, and I was just out at Crown Point assisted living a couple weeks ago for their chat and chew on Friday afternoon. So that was an exciting time, and different weddings and things like that. So.
All right, well, good. So let's go back to holistic health.
Yes.
So let's talk about the common problems that you see in treating your patients here in Lebanon.
All kinds of things, from stress and anxiety to depression to thyroid issues, hormone imbalance, digestive issues, chronic fatigue.
Do they know are they aware of these problems before they come to you, or do you identify them somehow through testing and evaluation?
So it kind of is it's kind of a conversation. I consider it a partnership in wellness solutions, so to speak. And I want them to come as they are and tell their story, basically. And I'll ask a lot of questions, and that helps me kind of pinpoint different things or identify different things, and that'll lead me down a particular direction or avenue that we might want to explore a little bit more about. Well, if the child started bedwetting when they were 7, what kind of circumstances, and I'm using that as an example, but what kind of circumstances surrounded that? What happened? Was there something, did the parents get divorced, or
problems at school or something like that?
Exactly, so that we can trace back to, okay, what was going on at that time that may have manifested itself as in a particular way.
Do you prescribe medicine in your practice?
So I don't, not any pharmaceuticals, but we use different nutritional remedies, homeopathic remedies, things like that, to help bring the body back into balance, because that's what we're really trying to achieve.
Okay, and people have found that they get improvement, I assume. Or you wouldn't have any patients, would you?
Correct, yeah. If I was bad at my job,
So do you have a staff of people that help you, or are you pretty much on your own? Or
I do. I have a couple wonderful part-time gals, Michelle Pittman and Brene Dale, that help me out in the office, and just with patients and the different
scheduling and all that.
Scheduling and the different therapies we offer. And
Michelle's here today, kind of making sure you don't get off the rails with your interview.
She's trying, yes.
So is there a lot of paperwork you have to deal with in your medicine practice like other physicians, or do you have less?
So because I'm a cash practice, I'm not, I don't have to provide a lot of records or anything like that to insurance companies. If somebody comes in and they use flexible spending account or health savings account to pay, sometimes they request receipts or, sometimes a little written note from me. But I like to keep, I'm still a paper person, so I still like to write things down, but we do have our, an online electronic medical record system. It's called Practice Better, that I keep my notes in, and people have their house paperwork and results, lab tests, and things like that. So,
and do you often work with or communicate with their family doctor or other specialists?
A lot of times, yes. We, we'll exchange lab results and test results and things like that. And
well, I kind of interrupted you with a question that came to my mind. I'm good at that. But you were talking about the common problems that you see. Did you get through that list, or there's still some more that you never got to?
Yeah, I think so. Insulin resistance, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, irritable bowel, chronic constipation.
So there, for all of those medical conditions people have for a variety of reasons, there are things you can provide them that might provide them with some improvement or some relief, and might even cause it to go away over time.
Correct, yes. Providing their body with something that it needs to heal, basically, because that's what we're really after is, healing the body, and not just, masking a particular symptom.
And I suppose people can do better if they follow your recommendations and they're true to their regimen of exercise or eating habits or whatever it may be,
Right.
that would improve their chances of having a positive result, wouldn't it?
Yes, I would say that is true.
Are there other people in Lebanon or central Indiana who practice this field of holistic health?
So there are. I know of a couple people over in Carmel. I think there might be one in Zionsville, Brownsburg. But as I mentioned before, I what I call just set up shop here in my hometown, and I thought, okay, well, if this is going to work, it's probably going to work best here. So
Yeah, they know who you are. They've heard the name.
Right.
They have positive recollections of you. So how long did it take you to get to where you felt like this was actually going to be a success, would you say?
I'd say probably maybe about a year and a half ago. So it took me a good year and a half to kind of make that transition of not going to Chicago and being here 100% of the time. I used to take Tuesdays off during the week, and I became so busy that I couldn't take Tuesdays off anymore. So I work 5 days a week now. And
that's a good thing, I suppose.
So yeah, it is. So it's
So do you have a website?
We have a website, www.drbethbartlett.com.
drbethbartlett.com.
Yes.
And that'll get information to people about your programs, your hours, some practical advice you have for them, I suppose.
All kinds of different information, yes. And then I have a Facebook page as well, and that's Dr. Beth Bartlett Holistic Health. And you can just search that in the search bar, and it'll come up.
And so for those who have difficulty keeping track of the right spelling, holistic is HOLISTIC, correct?
That's right.
And that word means what? Well, in layman's terms, holistic means whole body.
Looking at the body as a not just in individual areas, but a sum of its parts.
So is your space adequate out there? Are you going to be able to stay there for a while, or are you looking for a new space to grow into?
So that's a good question. We love where we are. We love sharing space with the Cabin Counseling and Resource Center. But we are, I don't want to say busting at the seams. We're on the verge of it. So, just keeping our eyes open about, location, space, but...
Well, is it possible you would move back to Lebanon if you can find a place you'd rather be than where you are in Crawfordsville, or you think you're pretty well set there in Crawfordsville?
We'd love to move back this way.
Well, something will open up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be development around here.
Yeah.
There haven't been a lot of new homes built over the years, but I think that will change over time.
Yes.
And other houses will come on the market that you might find affordable or attractive.
Right.
You'll make that decision. What part of Crawfordsville do you live in?
So we are in kind of the northeast corner. We're just south of 32 and just west of the 74.
Okay, well, I know about where that is.
Yeah.
So you look back on your upbringing in Lebanon, do you have positive recollections of going to school here and having friends here and growing up in this community, I assume?
Absolutely. I think just the as the saying goes, it takes a village, and so many people poured into me and spoke into my life, and I just feel like being back here, I'm able to return that favor and give back in that sense.
Well, good. Well, we're glad you're back, and I encourage your listeners to check out Dr. Beth Bartlett at Holistic Health here in Lebanon and see if she can provide you with some services. And I appreciate you coming in and talking about your life and your practice, Beth.
I appreciate the opportunity, Kent.
All right. I don't know who our guest will be next week on What's Up Boone County, but we'll have another person in to talk about the goings-on in our community. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week on What's Up Boone County.